everyone, Big Seven here, back for some more AFL SuperCoach content. Before I get into the video, I just want to send a shout out to George from FTTV. He's an icon of the SuperCoach YouTube community and a great bloke as well. I appeared in a episode of the Quadrant along with Spills and SDS. Both of those guys are riffing blokes as well. And yeah, it was cool to chat a few things pre-season, some rucks, some primo mids that we like, and a few other topics. So I would recommend giving that a watch. But yeah, just a shout out to George before I get into this video. Yeah, been following him for a long time, so it was great to get on the channel. Today, I'm going to be going through my favorite 7 premium and breakout forward options. So these are all players that are above 300k in price, and I either think they're going to be a top 6 or top 8 player in that position, or they're going to make at least 100k, but ideally you're looking for somewhere in the 150 to 200k mark. There's a lot of value in the forward line this year, and I know that some people really hate the forwards as a position. I personally really like them and enjoy them. You get to pick breakout players, players moving into better roles, ascending talents, and uh, picking the right forwards can make a really big difference on your team. I've only got 7 here that I'm going to be featuring, but honestly, like, there's a few honourable mentions in there that will definitely come into consideration, especially with a strong opening round performance. So without any further ado, I'm just going to go straight into the first player who I think is an absolute lock. That is Sam Flanders at under 400k, only averaged 73.3 last year. He's 24 years old, and he's shown in the past that he is an absolute pig. Last year, he had an awful year. I'm not going to deny that, but he had a interrupted preseason with a back injury, seemed to carry that throughout the season, and also the role was not great. It was mostly in the forward line with like occasionally pushing up to midfield. So in past seasons, he's averaged 119 in 2024, albeit that was playing mostly in the back line, some games in the midfield, but it was mostly as a gulling half back. But in 2023 and 2024, when he has got 50% or more CBAs, he averaged 111. That spot in the St Kilda midfield is there with the departure of Jack Steele, and it should be Flanders all the way. I don't really see much argument for fading him. He's my probably number 1 locked player in the whole game, maybe apart from rookies. But in terms of underpriced premiums, he's the one that I think you must have or you will not have a good season. Second up, I have Harry Sheezel. He is 580k, averaged 107 last year. That was a little bit down on his 2024 average, where he averaged 118. Again, that was in more of a gulling half back role. Last year, he played midfield with a little bit of time forward. I think another year in that midfield role will definitely help him. And he's only 21 years old, so there's definitely an argument to say that the natural improvement can come. Like I said, he can spend time at half forward rather than being a full-time midfielder, but the majority of the time he should be getting those midfield CBAs, and if he is in the forward line, then he should be pushing up the ground. So I'm not worried about his role at all, and yeah, 21 years old, already has a history of going 115 plus. He could do that again this year. And the other thing about Harry Sheezel is he's he's committed to being a superstar. I haven't seen anyone as young as him just get it in terms of on field and off field. He's very well spoken in the media. On his Instagram, he's always, having healthy meals and documenting that. And He's just a model of professionalism, and he will be a top four forward at worst, but he was the top forward. Well, this year he's top forward based on price, and I would expect him to stay in that top forward role. So Harry Sheezel, he's one I have no hesitation in picking. The next player I'm very keen on is Joel Freijah. 428k, averaged just under 80 last year. He's 20 years old, going into his third year, but man, he has shown some great signs at AFL level already. He's an enormous talent. I think back to the Bulldog Sydney game last year where Freijah, I think he started on a wing in the first half and he had an okay half. And then the second half, he was mostly forward and kicked 4 goals and had the occasional CDA. And then he stamped himself as like a match winner on that game. Like I said, he's an enormous talent and didn't have the greatest role last year. And it was a bit of wing, but I think it was mostly half forward with like occasional pinch hitting CBAs. This year, I think the role should be better. Tom Liberatore is not getting any younger. I think he's 33 years old or 34. Luke Beveridge has already said that the midfield last year was underwhelming. He did say that Liberatore wasn't going to be in there forever. Also pointed out Tim English a bit for that, but the new rules can help Tim English in the midfield group. And I think Joel Freijah should be a part of that. Last year, there were only 5 games when he had 30% or more CDAs, and he averaged 101 in that. So there is some question marks over the Dogs midfield mix, but I think Freijah should at least get some midfield time, maybe between 30 and 50%, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's a full-time midfielder either. Yes, you've got Richards. Yes, you've got Bontempelli. But I think Liberatore should get. You've got Matt Kennedy as well. Matt Kennedy had a good year last year, so he should get some midfield time as well. I think Freijah can be the fourth midfielder. We'll see what happens with Liberatore, but he's not getting any younger, and the more time that Freijah spends in midfield, the more, I guess, pressure there will be to play him as a full-time mid. I guess the other downside is that his role could change in season. So if he is a midfielder and is underwhelming or maybe doesn't have the defensive efforts, then he can go back to a forward line or he could even go back to a defense. So the role could change in season. I'm just supremely confident in the talent and the ability. And over his first 2 seasons, he's shown enough for me to declare him as like a future star of the comp. And my bold prediction is that he's only in 4% of teams at the moment. And I don't really consider ownership in picking my side, but I'm extremely scared of Freijah in round 0. I just hope he doesn't go, stupid like Callahan or Will Day did last year, because I think once people get a whiff of him, they're going to be on. So I would love to see Freijah like a 40 or 50% mid time, just to 80 or 90 in opening round, and keep the masses away from him, because I'm very keen on Freijah this year. Another point of difference, again, I'm not picking players just because they're point of difference. I'm picking them because I like them. Brent Daniels is another one. He's only in 4% of teams at the moment. Gone under the radar, just over 300k. He only averaged 62 last year. Last year was a really torrid year for him, though. Played the 6 games in total. He got injured in 3 of them. I think 2 of them subbed out, and one of them he was just on the bench for the rest of the game because they'd used the sub. He was the sub in, like, the starting substitute in one of the games. So that's 4 out of 6 games where he was impacted. That game as the sub, I think he ended up like coming on relatively early and scored an 80 odd. But in the 3 games that he wasn't injured or subbed, he averaged 84. And in 2024, he averaged 88 off a full season. So at 300K, I think he can. I think he will make a lot of money. I think he should go 80 at a minimum, and I think he can go as not. I think he can go 90 plus. He's just a player that I really love to watch. Granted, I do have a boner for those hard-working, half forward types. You know, Dylan Moores and the Brian Myers and who are yeah, Isaac Rankin when he's been half forward. I just love those kind of players. So there might be a little bit of positional bias in this Daniels pick, but he's someone I've always really rated as a player. The only thing that I think stops him this year is the injury history. Like I said, it was a torrid year for him last year. He had an adductor injury and then like some kind of rare abdominal injury, which I think for a lot of last year, he was like a month away. And then a few weeks later, you'd see the injury report and he'd still be a month away. So really battled with that. If he's fit going into this year, which I believe he is, then I think he'll smash this 300K price point, and um, he also has a ceiling in him. I've put it as a downside. That 2024 average was propped up by 195, and without that, I think he averaged 82. I'm normally not in the business of deducting ceiling games from players, but I know some people do, which is why I put it as a downside. But he does have a ceiling as well, and that is playing as a high half forward type. In 2024, he got pretty much no midfield time. He got a little bit last year, and GWS were decimated with injuries. I'm not expecting much mid time, if at all, this year. I don't think it matters. I'm pretty keen on Brent Daniels as a pick, assuming he can stay fit. The next player, and probably the first four are the ones I'm most keen on. Pretty much everyone from here out, I think is pretty changeable. I've gone Kysaiah Pickett as my 5, a little bit under 500K, averaged 92. He's only 24 years old. Last year, he averaged 100 when he had 60% or more CBAs. It was the end of the season when he got a few less. I think Goodwin and Melbourne were experimenting with a few things, and he also didn't get that amount at the start of the year either, coming back from suspension and then a few games to get back into it and then started getting the CBAs. So um, based on that, if he goes 100 like he did when he had the 60% or more CBAs last year, that makes him underpriced and definitely a top 6 forward. I think I've also read that Melbourne are intending to use him more as like a pure midfielder this year. Last year, there were times where he would play in the CBA and then kind of drift forward and swap a bit with Petracca. This year, they intend to use him more as like a pure midfield, I've read. So um, I think that can only help his scoring as well. The downside needs to be talked about, though. He is a threat to be tagged, especially with the departures of Oliver and Petracca. He could be the number one tag target. It hasn't happened a lot, but there was a game last year where Marcus Windhager really had his measure as a tagger. So I think there's a little bit of downside from that. And probably the other thing is he's a gun forward. Like in the forward line, you can put him forward for a quarter and he can kick 3 or 4 goals. And it really depends on the new coach, Stephen King. Is he going to have that temptation to push Cozzy out of the midfield if Melbourne need a spark in the forward line? I think with the state of the midfield at the moment, it's unlikely to happen. Like I said, the departures of Oliver and Petracca already left the midfield a bit thin. Yes, Melbourne got Jack Steele, but Jack Viney is dealing with an Achilles injury, and the defense is decimated as well. So um, it could. I think Rivers was in the midfield plan, but he could play in defence, which leaves midfield pretty bare. So I think Cozzy will be majority midfield this year, and he can do his 100 average that he did with majority midfield last time, with even some potential for more. He's a absolute gun player, and he's in that kind of half forward mold for me. He's one of my favorites to watch. I love Cozzy, so I've never actually picked him in Supercoach, but this is the year that I will, I think. But there are some talented players I haven't even mentioned yet. His teammate his former teammate Christian Petracca, 522k. He only averaged 97 last year, and I think some people have said that he wasn't really trying last year. I kind of disagree with that. Um, I think that for most of the year he was trying his heart out and visibly frustrated at losing. I think the change to a new environment will help him though. Um, and he is a player that has a pedigree of scoring well. In 2024, he averaged 107 before he got injured, and that was a very serious injury. I think it was like lacerated spleen and punctured lung, and it was life threatening. Like, didn't play the rest of the year, and the downside to that is, has that taken a toll? Is he actually going to reach the heights that he did in the past? 107 in 2024 before injury. He averaged 118 in 2023. So if he gets anywhere close to back to his best, then he's a smash at this price point. But yeah, I'm a bit worried about the injuries from 2024. He's also 30 years old, so he's no spring chicken. He's probably not washed either, but uh, once those pure midfield types do get to like 28, 29, that's kind of when they start to fall off a bit. So 30 years old, it's not great, not a death sentence though. Um, and I'm kind of interested to see what the role is as well. Gold Coast have got Matt Rowell and Noah Anderson as the main two midfielders, and they could really do anything with the rest of the team. Uh, could be Petrarca as a third mid, could be Took Miller. Bailey Humphrey has spent some time in there as well. And it could also change week on week or even by matchups. So I'm kind of interested to see what the role is with Petrarca. I'm definitely not writing him off. And I think ultimately, like, it's a pretty high floor play. I don't see him averaging under like 90. It just depends if he's going to hit that ceiling outcome or not. And I'm a little bit unsure just with the life-threatening injuries, but everything else really points to Petrarca improving, at the very least, improving on last year. But does he do it by enough to justify selection? He probably does, I think. Next player I've got in my 7 is Sam Darcy. I normally do not, I don't think I've ever started a premium key forward. They're not top six forwards generally, and the ones that do, I'm thinking back to like Kerno in the past when he averaged like 97, and then I think next year averaged about 80 odd. That was a bad draft selection for me. I think Jeremy Cameron's averaged close to 100 and hasn't repeated it. So normally that archetype of player doesn't really repeat the back-to-back premium years. But this is Sam Darcy. He's a unicorn. He's only 22 years old. He's 207 centimeters. And last year, he averaged 101 without the injury game. He got injured against St Kilda in like the first quarter on 16 points. So without that game, he averaged 101. He also started last year pretty strongly. I mean, it was only a 5 game sample size, but I think he averaged 109 then, and then had the injury game and was worse after that. Keep in mind that that injury was a PCL, and there were fears at the time that Sam Darcy would miss the entire season. So ended up coming back from that relatively quickly, and could that have impacted him last year? Potentially. It could even be a little bit of upside in the new ruck rules where he does the majority of ruck contests in the forward line. At the start of the year, he was doing those contests, I think, and then towards the back end, I think I can't remember who was doing it, but I think I'm pretty sure his ruck time went down in the back half of the year. So he's just he's a unicorn. But he's a key forward. So I'm not sure if I will pick him at this stage. And pretty much all of these seven forwards, like I feel pretty good about. I wouldn't be against starting all of them and running a couple in the midfield. And that's not even to mention the names that are my honourable mentions. So to sum up, my seven at the moment: Flanders, Sheezel, Freijah, Brent Daniels, Pickett, Petracca, and Sam Darcy. There's definitely some very interesting options. So if you wanted to pivot away from that, or if you wanted to go a deep forward line, I'll start with Isaac Rankin, 540k. He misses the first game with suspension, which is obviously not great, but he doesn't have an early round bye, so it kind of evens out if you want to compare him to those early bye players. Averaged around about 100 last year. He's another player that I just love watching, and he could improve on that 100 average last year. I think in around about the first 16 or 17 games, he was getting mostly midfield time, and then towards the back end, he was playing a bit more forward. If he goes back to being a majority midfielder, then I don't see why he can't do 105, 110. He could be a very sneaky pod start. So a bit of post-recording bullshit because, of course, something has to drop an hour after you record it. Looks like Connor McDonald is going to be predominantly a forward this year, according to Sam Mitchell. So he's probably still one to watch. I mean, he could get some midfield stints, but I guess without that 40 to 50% plus CBAs, I'm probably not interested. I could see a case for him, but not for me anymore. So yeah, unlucky. Charlie Curnow, 380k, has a career best season, averaging 97. Goes across from Carlton to Sydney, which should be a good upgrade for him. I think he's 29 years old, and he's still got some good years left in him. Like I said, average 97 in his best year. So there's a case to be made that he could push 100 this year. Not one I'm too keen on, but a good opening round, and all of a sudden he's an option as like a quick hitter for cash gen. Plays his former side Carlton in that opening round matchup too. So he's one that I'll be keeping an eye on. Josh Rochelle in the same boat to Connor McDonald, lighting up preseason by all accounts. Probably prefer him a little bit less than McDonald because the path to constant mid time is probably a bit harder. With you probably don't want to play Rankin and Rochelle in the same midfield as those attacking mids. And yeah, Adelaide have got a few players that can go through there. And Dawson will be a mainstay, but they'll also throw guys like Pete Ling and Sam Berry, and could even throw a lead through there. If you're really hot on Josh Rochelle, I would say take the plunge. For me, I'm kind of leaning no because I'm just a little bit unsure about how that role translates into the preseason role translates into an actual AFL level. And I did hear a quote come out from Josh himself that his aspirations was to be like a kind of Petracca type mid where it was like half midfield, half forward. So if you're expecting a high CBA number from Josh Rochelle, I don't think you should expect that. But he's also shown in times in 2022 and 2023, he's been a really good he's been a really good midfield scorer when given that opportunity. Jordan De Goey, 321k, Couple of seasons removed off a 90 average, I think, 90 or 95. I'm just a bit concerned that his groin is cooked. Um, but if he is back to full fitness and getting that CBA role, then I think he can do 90 to 95. And at 320K, you're definitely taking that. And then the last one, Adam Treloar, he's been in a lot of preseason sides, fairly highly owned. I'm leaning against him. It feels dangerous because he averaged, I think it was 107 in 2024 and like 110 in 2023 off the top of my head. Um, I'm leaning towards fade though. He's 33 years old. I think Freijah should be playing midfield ahead of him. I would I'm expecting Treloar to play like a half forward type of role. He's a good bloke, but I think his body is cooked. Just recurring hamstring injuries. It hasn't been able to get it right, which is unfortunate. And I think he could also be a victim of the fifth player on the bench because he hasn't managed to get his body right, and he's had all those flare ups. He could be like a half forward that only gets 50 to 60% time on ground. So I'm planning on fading Treloar, but a good opening round could change everything. So that sums up the forwards for me. Thanks very much for watching. Next video will be the rocks, and I thought the forwards were interesting, but the rocks they're normally make or break, and I think they are even more make or break this year with the new rule changes. So next episode, I'll be going through the new rule changes, how much I think they're going to impact the rucks, and subsequently who my favored options at the ruck position are. So once again, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you for the next video.